When talking about sort of religious minorities within the human rights framework, what we do is we...
He wants you to use the mic because he is the recording.
Alright. So, the way we approach this is that you look at discrimination in terms of there being legal discrimination and ensuing or consequent social discrimination. These two things are not always related, and social discrimination, of course, can exist in an atmosphere where there is no legal discrimination whatsoever. Prejudice is undesirable, it is not illegal. So I first deal briefly with the legal aspect of this. There is, I know, a lawyer in the audience who probably knows this much better than I do.
I don't.
And for this, there is now a lot of confusion about this, because what is referred to in Pakistan, what we are forever talking about, is the blasphemy law or the blasphemy laws. Now, actually, what this is series of clauses of the penal code that we are talking about, and we refer to it in often in the secular just as the blasphemy law. And this is quite problematic, because what happens is that when you are having this debate, as I have on television many times, one part of these laws, section 295C, deals with the what they call Toheen Risala, which is insulting the Prophet. In the year 2000, of course, this was used because civil society was very exercised by this. This was used by Pervez Musharraf as part of his rhetorical armory when he took over seized power in '99, and he said that, oh, he would repeal the blasphemy law, change the blasphemy law. Eventually, it all boiled down to making procedural changes in the blasphemy law. Eventually, those procedural changes were not made. There was some kind of attempt finally in 2004 to make a procedural change. We only have Ijaz al-Haq's word for it. Actually, it is a little difficult. Who was the relevant minister for minorities at that point? Religious affairs. And that those procedural changes, perhaps they were effective, have not resulted in any reduction in the number of cases filed under the blasphemy law or the abuse of the blasphemy law. One of the more surreal experiences of my career as a human rights advocate was when in 2004, I and my boss who was visiting had a meeting scheduled with the Ijaz al-Haq, who was the Minister for Religious Affairs, and he couldn't make it for the meeting. And we instead had a meeting with his stand-in, which was the Minister of State for Religious Affairs of the time. I forget his name, which should indicate something to you, but he was a priest and he was a very nice gentleman, and we had a very civilized conversation about all manner of things until we got to the point where an international NGO and the government of Pakistan start discussing what they disagree on. And I said, well, you know, Minister, we'd like to talk about the blasphemy law. And he said, oh, not to me, never to me. And I said, why? He said, don't you see, I'm Christian, I can't get involved with this. And basically, here was this minister telling us that he could not talk to us about the blasphemy law, and he could not talk to us about the MDs, certainly not, and he could not talk to us, he dared not talk to us about anything of any substance related to all of this. The problem we have is that the state, as reflected in its laws, is sectarian, partisan. In a sense, there is on the other thing I've noticed in the print media in Pakistan last week and on television is that this debate is about terrorism. There can be no meaningful debate about terrorism if you do not make the connections between sectarianism, the sectarianism of the state, and how it has led to terrorism and the Taliban as we see it today. It's again, it is one of those rhetorical flourishes to say, oh, we are all faced with the problem of terrorism. No, we are also faced with the problem of sectarianism. And the problem is that you have a militant Wahhabi streak which has lots of similar groups coalescing, and they're saying, well, this is our definition of Islam, and it's either this or nothing, and if you don't like it, well, we'll blow you up. And the nasty part of this is that the state did exactly this to the Ahmedis during Ziaurat's time under Mr. Bhutto. During Ziaurat's time, it did it more to the Ahmedis, it did it to other minorities, and it started doing it to Shias and others. I mean, one of the things that we really need to talk about, and we don't have time here right now in the course of this conversation, is to talk about the Shias in Pakistan, and whether they are a minority or not, and what it means to be a Shia, and how you are threatened in Pakistan for being a Shia. Where is the beginning? The beginning is that you start dealing with what you can deal with, and it is the laws. It took the National Assembly of Pakistan being pressured by 3 women to actually grudgingly pass a resolution yesterday condemning that attack on Ahmedis. The Chief Minister of the Punjab has not seen fit to be to their places of worship, to condole with them. That's state sectarianism. And that is the reality, and you can only deal with it by first dealing with the law. Social change is a long time coming, and it may or it may not. And prejudice will not disappear because the law changes, but the law changing will mean that the state will be in a position to potentially play neutral arbiter when it can enforce its right. Thank you.
The point I'm trying to make here is that it's very simple. A simple repeal is required, but the way they argued it in that subcommittee of the National Assembly Standing Committee was, no, we can't have a simple repeal, because look, Austria has blasphemy laws, Denmark has blasphemy laws, Norway and Sweden have blasphemy laws, so why should we repeal our blasphemy laws? And look at the cartoons that they're making in Denmark, and look at what the Pope said in his speech in his German university. He called the Prophet all sorts of names and called him, a non-intellectual, shameful sort of names that he called him in his speech in his university. So we can't repeal this law. So that is going to be the bottom line, and that is going to be her report. She's not bothered to share it. It's been a year since I appeared before that committee. Okay.
If I may comment. I'm not sure, by the way, in February, the minorities minister, there is now a minister for Shehbaz Bhatti, did say that they were considering procedural changes to the blasphemy law. This is exactly what the Pervez Musharraf said in 99 or 2000. No, 99 he said it in 2000, it was all over. The point is that change is needed. Now, let it be an effective procedural change. The proof of the pudding lies in the eating. If you can actually get a situation where the number of people being charged under the blasphemy law drops.
Where do people get the notion of this law or of the idea that Ahmadis are non-Muslims? Is this in schools? Or is this, how does it come to the people's mind that this is?
You know, there are lots of things that in this country, if you well, simply live through history, you see that there are things that you are told are beyond the pale, that the discourse does not allow for them. And that narrowing of the discourse is engaged in by whoever the dominant power of the day is, which usually is the military, and they create sacred cows, and often they are done in conjunction with the religious establishment. And then there is this period, a decade, or 15 years, or 20 years even, where you dare not go there. And then you discover that when you do, well, all hell hasn't broken loose. When, for example, the military decides that it's going to change the contours of the debate. Well, guess what? The debate changes. It doesn't change quite that easily. It's more difficult to create an atmosphere of self-censorship than it is to roll back one.
Okay, if that's all, let's have some tea. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Ali.